Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. It is Friday, May something or other. I have no idea what's going on. You're probably a little bit confused because I'm in a hotel room. I'm traveling, taking a few days off. Excuse me, it's hotter than heck in here. I hope everybody's doing well. Things are going to be a little bit chaotic today. I'm in a hotel room. I don't know if somebody's going to try to walk in right in the middle of this. I wish you guys could see this because I have to prop up my phone. So I have it on two overturned coffee cups with a roll of toilet paper in front of it and a Monster energy drink in front of that so the phone doesn't slide forward. And it's actually leaning, excuse me, leaning back against the coffee maker. So I had to run it live, had to run it early today because I have to be out of the hotel room at 11 and go to a different hotel. I'm a little bit past New York today. I'm going to stay on, answer you guys' questions if you guys actually catch this early. So glad you guys are here. Before I get started, just a reminder that if your questions don't go through, it's not me throttling you. It's not me, restricting you or anything like that. It's just YouTube being YouTube. So if your questions don't go through, try shortening them, try rewording them, or just head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, slide into my DM. You guys hear me okay? I don't have the best 5G. I'm hooked up on the Wi-Fi. Wasn't certain if they were going to throttle me at all. So let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, so what is going on? I wanted to talk about the Mark Bell. Before we lead in, I want to talk about the Mark Bell sugar diet. Have you guys heard of this thing? Yeah, definitely MacGyvering it. I wish you could see my setup with the toilet paper roll. Like, how am I going to prop my phone up vertically while charging it? And it's pretty ingenious, if I do say so myself. Have you guys heard of the Mark Bell sugar diet? This is probably going to be pretty low key today because I can't breathe in here and it's about 800 degrees. Excuse me. So I wanted to talk about the Mark Bell sugar diet real quick because it's starting to come on my radar a lot. I want to set the stage. I have no interest in bashing on Mark Bell. It's not like that. But whenever one of these, often people ask me like, why do you care? Why do you care? Paul, I'm getting kicked out of the hotel room in about an hour and a half, so I had to get it in. Why do I care about Mark Bell sugar diet? That's a really good question. And the reason why I do is because I'm going to get a lot of questions on it. Anybody that does coaching for a living is going to get a lot of questions about specific diets. So I'm already getting questions. I'm already seeing some clients wanting to make the switch. I don't have a complete understanding of it. I was trying to listen yesterday on the drive through over here. I'm a little bit past New York. I was trying to get up to speed a little bit. And it seems like it is a fat loss diet where you're eating 300 to 350 grams of sugar per day and minimizing fats and proteins. And I want to tell you guys, like, I don't like to be reactionary, and maybe there's a few pieces of the puzzle I'm missing here, but my honest opinion, I'm always going to shoot you guys straight. Obviously, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're going to lose weight, calories in, calories out. If you have your calories at a certain level, you're going to lose weight. And we all get that, right? We all get that, but we're taking the fat loss process. As a coach, I'm going to tell you, the fat loss process is hard enough, right? I've done this for so many years, just endless amount of clients. And I can tell you when somebody hops on a cutting diet or a fat loss diet, it's hard enough, right? It's not easy to do. So now we're going to overcomplicate things. We're going to move away from food volume, and all of a sudden we're going to introduce like some new magic variable. And yes, I'm just going to say it. It just smells like this is one of the worst fads I've ever seen. One of the worst creations I've ever seen. Fat loss really comes down to being able to adhere to a diet, right? And getting past the stage where you're super hungry. The first 3 or 4 days, you're going to be very, very hungry. And now we're going to take this process and we're going to complicate it by having you rely on 300 to 350 grams of sugar a day. I'm not calling Mark Bell dumb. I want you guys to understand, but this is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. I don't know how it came about. I don't have the background. So if you guys have it, feel free to share it. I don't have any more information than what I pulled up on ChatGPT and the couple of small videos I've watched. But please, please, I'm begging you, push back against this if you see it on social media. I'm begging you, do not support content that supports this idea. That's the last thing we need in this industry is another fad diet. And at that, probably one of the most ridiculous concepts I've ever heard. I don't care what purported benefits are being stapled to this concept. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So again, just for you guys tuning in, I'm going to get any questions right now. For you guys tune in, I'm in a hotel room. I had to go on early today because I'm probably going to be kicked out at 11 Eastern. And at any moment, somebody could probably try to come in and check the room. So if that happens, we'll just bring them on Massive Iron Live. So anyway, post up your questions. I'll stay on as long as I can. And glad to have you guys here. Have you guys heard of this diet, by the way? All right, let's see if I can show questions. There we go. I had to make sure I could do this from my phone, so I've never done it before. Good morning, Barbell Beauty. Let's see. They're doing something outside of my room. Shelly, good morning. Glad to have you here, Shelly. And I have to do these one by one, so it's a little bit tedious. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. So just bear with me, guys. And let's see. I have to hit show on stage for everyone. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. MG, what's going on, MG? Good to have you here. Definitely early. I am feeling it. I drove 12 hours yesterday. I went through New York City, and the traffic was slow as heck the last 4 hours. So it really drug out the drive. Yeah, I wish you guys could see the setup just propping up this camera. I think it's pretty legendary. Let's see. The rep goal system changed my workouts. Thanks. I appreciate it. It's a concept I put out with my first book, Massive Iron, probably almost, it seems like 11, 12 years ago. Time is moving by really, really quickly. And for those of you guys who aren't familiar with it, basically, how many ever sets you're doing, 2, 3, or 4 per exercise, you're going to add up the reps for all these sets. So let's say you're doing 3 sets with a given weight. You're going to use the same weight for every exercise. So let's say you're using 165 pounds on the bench press and you hit 12, 10, and 8. That would be 30 total reps. So the way the rep goal system works is you have a total rep goal that you're trying to hit. And when you hit this total, then you move up in weight. So let's say you have a rep goal total of 30 on the bench press. When you hit 30 total reps, then you move up in weight. So if you would hit 12, 10, and 8, that would be 30. And then you would add 5 pounds to the bar. So you want to move up a minimum amount. So that's how the rep goal system works. There's some different iterations. I'm sitting here thinking, you could come up with other iterations if you wanted to, things I've never thought of before. Like you could set a rep goal for the last 2 sets. So if you wanted to do the first set, let's say you're doing 165 on the bench and you wanted to do only the first set for 10 reps, and then you wanted to rep goal the last 2 sets. You could do that. So you could rep goal the last 2 sets, say 16 reps. or 18 or 20. The number doesn't matter. So you're using the same weight for every exercise or for every set. You could do 10, which is a static set or kind of a primer set, or just to get in a little bit of extra volume. And then you could do max reps and max reps on the last 2 sets. And then if you hit your rep goal on that, maybe 20, then you can move up in weight. If you max rep the first set, you're almost always going to be max repping all sets, because if you push that first set hard, when you get to the second set, you're going to be a little bit fatigued. And if you're trying to get to a total, a certain rep total on that second set, it's almost always going to be to failure. So remember, when you are doing multiple sets, the first one, if you push for maximum safe quality reps, is almost always going to result in all sets being pushed to the limit unless you stop them arbitrarily. So if you want to adjust things, the way to adjust things is to do the last 2 sets for max reps or the last set for max reps. I hope that helps. All right, let's move on here. Yvonne, good morning. Glad to have you here. Appreciate it. Wish this was a little bit easier to show comments. And Big Joe, what's going on, Joe? Thanks for tuning in. And I appreciate you letting me know the sound is working okay. If anything funky comes up, just let me know, because we're not doing anything fancy today, boys and girls. This is all about the gains. Absolutely MacGyvering it. I'll tell you, I feel so rough after driving for 12 hours yesterday, and the traffic in New York is relentless. And if there's so many offshoots on these roads, it's been 12 years, or maybe even 15 years since I've been to New York City. And you miss one road and all of a sudden you're spiraling around in circles for 20 minutes trying to get back on track. And I hate to say it, but I did it a couple of times. Barbell Beauty says, yeah, it's another extreme diet like carnivore. It's a fat loss diet. We're talking about Mark Bell sugar diet. It's a fat loss diet where you rely on a lot of sugar. The major, there's so many ways you could break this down into being a bad idea. Number one, you're removing food volume from the equation. When you want to go on a cut and you want maximum food volume, you want to eat as much as you can, right? That's kind of a good thing, I would think of, right? I mean, for me, that would be a good thing. If you want to go the opposite way and go all hardcore and just eat sugar, right? I mean, go for it, for the love of all things holy. But I want to maximize food volume, and I want to maximize nutrients, because I don't know about you, but I'm about health, not just about losing 2 pounds quickly or perceivably quicker than some conventional method. Now, how do I structure a fat loss diet? Try to bring your protein intake to at least 35% of your daily intake. What this will do is it'll force you to, this is not arbitrary, it'll force you to rely on more leaner protein foods. If you can get your protein up to 35 or 40%, you can rely on more lean protein foods. Seafood or pork loin or chicken breast, whatever your thing is, right? This maximizes intake, and it'll help maximize nutrients from your protein. Then if you get your fats down to 20%, you're still getting in enough, a reasonable degree of fats for your organ, for brain function, for skin, for your central nervous system. I don't know about you, but I like my central nervous system. I don't know about you, but I like my skin. I don't know about you, but I like my feeble brain. So I want a minimal amount of fats in my diet on a daily basis, because I like my brain and I like my central nervous system. And certainly nothing radical is probably going to happen if you do a low-fat, all-sugar diet for a month. I mean, there are people that fast for a month and they're okay. But, just because you can do something doesn't mean it's, the smart thing to do. If somebody's trying to fast for a month to lose fat because they're morbidly obese and they are risking an early grave. Do what you need to do. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to push that sort of stuff. I'm not here to fight back. But if you're just an average person in my universe or Mark Bell's universe, why would you do this? It's not going to expedite anything. It's going to make things harder. Why would you do a fad diet that makes things harder? By dropping your fat to 20%, you can increase your food volume because fat has 9 calories per gram. Fat is not evil, but by reducing your fat to 20% on a cutting diet, you increase your food volume. So by increasing your protein to 35 or 40% of your daily intake, reducing your fat down to about 20% of your daily intake, you maximize your food volume for the day. Why would this be a bad thing? Why would this be a bad thing? Why would you need any other way? I mean, we're relying on nutrient solid foods, animal and plant-based, etc. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but this thing just really irritates me. That's all I can say. Big Paul, only 7:30. Yeah, I'm sure it's 7:30 out in New Mexico. I got up at 6 o'clock to get rid of some of the energy drinks this morning. I'm like, shoot, I got 2 hours of sleep left. I set my alarm for 8 this morning, and when it went off, I will not lie, I felt like I'm just going to sleep in all day. CJ, how's it going, CJ? Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. All right, is getting a better form better than adjusting reps for progressive overload? You need to do both. There's not a better, okay? It's not like, should I work on better form or should I work on adding reps? Well, if your form is so awful, and I don't know what we're talking about, every lift's going to be different, but if your form is so awful that you probably need to dial down your weight a little bit, then you should dial down your weight. But there's very few lifts that are like this, okay? We can't equate all lifts equally. Equate equally, redundant, right? You can't put all lifts in the same basket. They're not all equal, right? And that's one thing the fitness influencer world tends to do. They tend to put all lifts in the same basket, same category, because I don't know, are we dumb? Are we an idiocracy? Every lift is the same. A lift is a lift is a lift. So let's put them all in the same basket. I'm not saying you guys do this, but this is stuff influencers do and online coaches do over and over again with their generalizations. The demands of every exercise are different. You're going to hear me say this on every Massive Iron Live and nearly every video I make. The demands of every exercise are different. So when it comes to form, the impact of form on results is going to be different on every exercise. If your squat is jacked up, royally jacked up, you're probably not going to get any decent quad activation, etc., out of that lift. So yes, you probably do need to dial the weight down and crawl back up. If your deadlift form is jacked up, yes, you probably, the deadlift, it depends on the degree. You might just need to bring your hips down or have a little bit of a tweaking of a form cue, and then you're good to go. So the squat, more than anything, if your form is jacked up, we probably, in most cases, we probably need to dial the weight a little bit down and then adjust the form. On the deadlift, it's a case-by-case basis, but probably the same thing. Same with RDL. Outside of that world, if your form is jacked up on like a seated cable row and you're simply not controlling the weight down, or your torso is flopping way forward on a seated cable row, sorry to headbutt the camera, these changes are very, very minor and are generally not going to impact the weight you're using. Does that make sense? So you don't have to, what you need to do is have somebody that understands form that can say, hey, just do this a little bit more nuanced on the lat pull down. You'll get more out of it. The lat pull down, you're pulling with your torso rather than your arms to initiate the lift. So it really is a case-by-case basis for every exercise. So you first and foremost, you need somebody reputable to look at your form on an exercise. You don't want to be reactionary and say, I have bad form. Here's the thing. For most of you, you don't understand what perfect form is. That's not a criticism. Many of you might. And for many lifts, it might be a truth. That's not a criticism. That just means you probably need somebody, another eyeball, set of eyeballs that's experienced to say, hey, you need to do this a little bit more nuanced on the lat pull down. On curls, your elbow is not, you're swinging your elbow up and kind of cheating the weight up. It's usually a little bit more nuanced. So you want to have somebody kind of look at your form a little bit. We got like a jackhammer going on outside. Why wouldn't we at 9:52, right? Anyway, maybe that's a water pipe about to burst. Who knows? We're live. Anything can happen. But does that make sense? I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Sounds like a helicopter. Does that make sense? So there's nuance here. Better is not it's not an either or question. We have to look at the lift we're doing. We have to have somebody, send me your form videos on Instagram. Join my Discord community. There's a link in the previous videos from this week. Do whatever. Email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. I assure you, I answer every email, every question, not doing anything to try to get your money out of you or anything like that. I'm not going to give you any salesman bullshit. I help everybody that comes to me, and I always will, as long as I have the mental and physical capacity to do so. So, like, obviously, don't send me 12 form videos, right? I'm not a machine. I only have so many hours in the day. But if you're unsure about a lift, send it to me. Come join Team Massive. Send me the lift. Let me take a look at it. And we can see, you still want to work, in general, you want to work on form and you want to work on progressive overload in the same lane, unless you give the video to someone and they say, your form, we really need to drop weight because your barbell row, you're really cheating it and we need to drop weight 20%. It's nuanced. Does that help? There's not a simple answer to the question. It's nuanced. And quite frankly, any coach that tells you otherwise doesn't have a clue what they're doing. Victor, how's it going, Victor? Thanks for tuning in. Good morning, Big Ernie Peterson. And let's see, Mike M. Is it reasonable on a cut to lose strength during the first month? Yeah, anything can happen. I find that the stronger I get, the longer I've been lifting, and I kind of find this with some of my more experienced clients, the more they're able to handle a cut better mentally and almost physically. If you're going to do a long run cut, right? If you're going to do a long-term cut and try to lose 50 pounds, then you're probably going to pay some penalty. But on a short-term cut, I find that a lifter that is a little bit stronger and more experienced generally doesn't suffer as much. And the more you do cuts, the more I find people don't suffer as much. Does that make sense? So a lot of weird things can happen on a cut, and every lift is going to be different. So you simply don't know. Some lifts you can kind of have a glycogen penalty, and then your body adapts to the energy, patterns that you are, your eating profile, your eating patterns, and your body adapts, and you might have a swing back up a little bit. It's hard to say. The one thing you want to do on a cut is always be safe. Save the big pushes and the big reps and all that big hoo-ha, for when you're back on a bulk. I'm not saying you can't steal easy reps on a cut. Just be reasonable. Big Drew, how's it going, Big Drew? Thanks for tuning in. Do you have any clients with heart conditions? I have had clients with many, many conditions. I've had clients that have come back from heart attacks and their doctor said they need to lift or exercise or walk more or all number of things. The only thing I do with anybody is number one, we're going to talk about what the doctor said that they should do. Number two, I'm going to say we always analyze, I always meet everybody where they're at, both physically and mentally. If somebody came back from a heart attack or has a heart condition, or, erratic heartbeat or whatever the case is, I am not a doctor. So I'm going to say, what did your doctor say, right? Your doctor said it's okay to lift weights. So you and I have that understanding. We are going to do something reasonable within that realm with your doctor's blessing. If you mentally don't want to do a certain exercise, or mentally, after your heart attack or with your heart condition, don't want to attack progressive overload in a certain way, that's okay. We will meet where we need to meet because we understand the bigger picture. The bigger picture is doing a little bit of resistance training and moving is probably good for your health in the long run. Not probably, we're being polite, but I've trained every type of, not every, but I've trained people with scoliosis. I've trained blind lifters. I've trained lifters with limited cognitive function. Some of the Special Olympians I've trained had so many hip and knee surgeries you couldn't even be able to count. I've trained everybody with every possible condition you could imagine. I just had a client come back that is a cancer survivor. He just went through a year of chemo. Everything we do is meeting you where you're at and doing something reasonable and understanding the bigger picture. Not everybody's trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. And everybody has varying degrees of, I want to get this big, I want to get this strong, I want to lose this much fat, I want to get in this, this much conditioning. I have all kinds of clients. One of my clients is a professional timber sports or lumberjack. He won the world championship this last month. And we went from like 380 pounds down, or 360 down to 280. And after losing 80 pounds, he won the world championship. Something an American only did it like 4 times in the history of the sport. There's, and I'm not, that's on him, but I have all kinds of people that I work with, and we meet them where they're at. And some people want to do endurance runs. Some people want to train for 50K. Some people want to train for 50K while maximizing muscle mass. Some people hate strength and just want pure muscle. Whatever they want, whatever your condition is, everyone's unique. Everyone has an injury history, and I meet everyone where they are at. Let's see. CJ talking about the all sugar Mark Bell diet. I've heard of it. Sounds like another overcorrection from people on the keto and carnivore diet. I guess now they're getting their fruits and veggies. I don't know if it's fruits, veggies. All I know is it said 300 to 350 grams of sugar. I don't know the sources. Maybe some of it is fruit. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I just know it's low protein, low fat, and by low sugar, I'm sure it's not just like a lot. I mean, I'm a little bit reactionary with the low sugar thing, but or with the high sugar thing, but removing protein, the protein's your major nutrient source, and trying to minimize fats. It's just a fad diet. However you want to slice it, however inaccurate my perception of it is right now, it's just another fad diet. Do these folks on the sugar diet experience sugar? I'm a recovering type 2, and I nearly died from fatty liver disease. Literally, I was in such a bad state. I had cramps from head to toe. My liver just wasn't processing minerals properly, or whatever was going on, and some weird fatty liver disease. And still to this day, I went out after that and I lost 100 pounds, and I dramatically did a body transformation. And after that, I did 5 years of ultra running. I did everything I could possibly do to turn my health and my life around. And still, if I get a lot of lack of sleep like I did last night, or I combine that with maybe 3 alcohol drinks and maybe a little bit of junk food like a pizza night, I will feel my blood sugar the next day about 9, 10 a.m. I'm like, wow, I just feel awful. And there are so many people out there. Obviously, having sugar from fruit isn't the same thing as having sugar from, a candy bar, because you have the digestibility factor. Uh, Fruit is digested more slowly, so the insulin impact is not, anywhere near as dramatic. And I'm no expert on this stuff, but it's just all common sense. So, however he has it framed, I don't know, but I really, really it's just cringe for me in any form. Let's see. Logan, loving the ramping set protocol, using it on squat, bench, and press. Do I start with the bar? The ramping sets have to be like a ramp set where we're looking at ramping up. Let's say your bench press, your ramp set or your heavy set is 225. You can do 145, 165, 185, 205, 205, or 225. So you have 5 sets. You want to do about 5, maybe 6 ramp sets, depending on your strength level. So where you start is going to depend on your strength level. If you're a 315 squatter, you probably want to ramp, 25, 30 pounds. It depends. There's no magic way to do it. You don't want to do too many sets. Does that make sense? So you kind of want to ramp up reasonably. If like I can bench 390, right? I'll give or take a pound or two. And if I'm going to do a ramping set, I'm going to start with bar by 10. I'm going to start with 135 by 6. Then I'm going to go to 225, and then maybe I'll start my ramps. But even then, I think it's a little bit on the low end. So you want to do your warm-up sets normally until you hit that ramping protocol. So for me, I might do 30-pound jumps. So let's say my last set is 345 by 5. So I might do 345 by 5, backing this down, 315 by 5, 285 by 5, 255 by 5, 225 by 5. So I might do 5 ramping sets. And then until I get to 225, I just warm up normally. So bar by 10, 135 by 6, and then I start hitting my ramping sets. Does that make sense? So there's nuance here. And it really depends on your weight, your starting weight, or the weight for the heavy set, and where your warm-ups are, or where those 5 or maybe 6 sets fall. Does that make sense? Let's see. Eggs or oatmeal pre-work. I don't want to take any food in my stomach right before I work out because it's going to sit in your stomach. When you are lifting or exercising, your body has to figure out, where am I going to put the blood? If you're exercising, it's going to take the blood and put it in the muscles and not going to use as much in the stomach. So whatever goes in your stomach is just going to kind of sit in your stomach. We learned this in ultra running because you would try to eat while you're running for 12 hours, and a lot of this would just sit in your stomach, and then my wife would profusely vomit. And that's what happens, even water. So when this happens, you have to have a period where you sit down and cool down and allow the blood to return back to your stomach. So you don't want to eat directly pre-workout. You want to eat a couple hours before your workout. So it's digested, you're ready to roll. And I would have both. You want to have a complex. I like having both a protein source and a complex carbohydrate source. How much food volume you have at that time is going to be individual. Some people need more, some people need less, but definitely don't have it pre-workout. Thanks, Big Bryce. Thanks for tuning in. Do you think 30 minutes of incline walking 4 times a week? No, not bad for muscle building at all. The body is not that fragile. In fact, it's great for health. You could do a lot more than that. The body is not that fragile, folks. The body is not that fragile. You could do hours and hours and hours of cardio a week. The body is always going to respond to a calorie surplus and progressive overload. It might take you a little bit of a break-in period to get used to your cardio regimen, but we're not talking, it's not going to cause you to lose any muscle. It's not going to slow down the muscle building process. people pushing this are idiots. They're functional idiots. I don't know how they put their socks on in the morning. And I'm just being humorous, but kind of true a little bit. How do they change a light bulb? Have they seen anybody playing like rugby or American football or basketball? These people are not going catabolic and losing muscle. So the concept in the fitness industry, anybody pushing this is a functional idiot. You can quote me and you can say, Steve Shaw said, you're a functional idiot and you shouldn't be coaching anything. You shouldn't even be coaching an ant across the sidewalk, right? So, no, the body's not that fragile. This is absolutely great for health. Go at it. No downside. If you are lifting weights, if you are training hard, the body is going to respond, and no flip is going to be switched that shuts that off unless you're doing something utterly ridiculous. And if you were, you probably wouldn't be able to get out of bed every morning because you're so impossibly sore from 12 hours of work the previous day. No, I've not seen the new definition of maintenance calories. The stuff we come up with, I'm a little bit scared to even look at this. So if any of you guys have this, send it to me offline so I can take a look when I have a chance today. A maintenance is always maintaining where your weight is maintaining at, right? So anybody overcomplicating this is just adding another turd into the swimming pool of online fitness. Sorry to be crude, but that's pretty much it. I like trend more than my brain. Well, that's good. You have a right to like anything more than your brain. You can 420 yourself into oblivion, drink yourself to, off a cliff, eat Little Debbie's and become a fatty waddy cakes. Do whatever you want. You do you. But I can tell from this comment, you definitely don't like your brain. Let's see. Hold on here. Hold on one second. I just lost. All right, where were we? I just lost the comments. Let's see. Maintenance level. There we go. Sorry. MG, as soon as I want to do a fast, I immediately get hungry. Yeah, I was driving up yesterday and I'm like, I'm just going to fast as long as I can. I don't do daily intermittent fasting, but some days, like if we have a pizza night or whatever, I will fast until I can't fast anymore during that day. And some days I don't eat till 2 or 3 afterwards. So I give my body a little bit of break on those days when we have something, a little bit saucy and sassy, right? So yesterday I was driving up and I had 12 hours of driving. And I'm like, I'm just going to fast as long as I can fast. And I was doing really good to 11. And then I had to stop at like 12:30 to get gas. And there was like a protein bar over in the corner, like Chef Robert Irvine's, cookies and cream or whatever. It was winking at me like, you don't have any calories today. I did get that, but I also got 480 calories of beef jerky, just good, better, best. So I did keep my calories good yesterday. I only had 2,000 calories yesterday, but I accidentally ate a protein bar. Let's see. I came back on a bro split after I tried some frequency stuff, but it was beating my joints up, even with low weekly volume. There's a lot of people that'll say the opposite. And it really comes down to this, what is working well for you? I have a lot of people that go on a body part split and say their joints feel better. And you're a good example of doing the opposite and your joints are feeling better. This is why we need to keep the protocol based on the lifter and not off any social media dogma. Does that make sense? One thing I will say is that we tend to lump all body parts and all joints into the same pool. That's what dumb influencer fitness does. It lumps up, makes everything equal. If you are training legs really hard, it might take you longer to recover than training your chest. Every body part's going to be a little bit more. Every body part's going to be different. Does that make sense? There's nuance here. Not every body part is going to require an equal amount of recovery. If we were to say that, we would be idiots. That doesn't mean we need to overcomplicate our split, right? But we need to be aware of that so we can make adjustments. Some people will find out if they train bench press patterns too frequently, it'll beat up their shoulders or elbows, or if they train too frequently on the triceps, it'll beat up their elbows or cause elbow inflammation. And some people are the opposite. They might train elbow or triceps frequently and find that it treats their triceps and elbows better. So this is all about evolution. Training evolution is what I talk about. Evolving training based on needs. People will ask me all the time, what does this mean? This is a perfect example. I have many clients doing frequency. I have many clients doing body part splits. But you're making an observation that is taking place in the gym for you, and you are evolving your training, moving forward based on this reasonable observation. And this is a perfect example. All right, let me get a drink here. It's a little bit warm in here. I have the air conditioning off, so I'm not blasting the sound. Is adding weight or reps the only way to progress? In the long run, yeah. You can add sets, but you can't do that indefinitely. You can reduce rest in between sets, but you can't do that indefinitely. You can continue to make a finisher harder and harder and harder. So on squats, you could do a pre-fatigue, and then you could then add a superset with lunges, and then you could add a diminishing superset with rest pause. There's a limit. Everything other than weight, there's a limit, and that limit will run its course very, very quickly. You could add weight. You could add a set. You could start with 2 sets on bench, and then go to 3, and then 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. And over the course of 4 months, maybe you progressively overload your volume. And you could do this, but all of it is going to shift back a focus to progressive overload and weight. Does that make sense? Because everything else is finite. You can't continue to progressively overload the other variables. In the short run, you can, but everything else will always default back to strength, because you can't infinitely add volume or infinitely reduce rest in between sets to the point where it becomes like, okay, now I'm resting 0.74 seconds in between sets. Now I'm resting 0.73 seconds. I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. It gets ridiculous when you try to progressively overload any of these other variables beyond a few months. How many, what are you going to do? 40 sets of bench press? You're going to end up destroying your body. You're going to end up living in the gym. So everything always defaults back to weight, and I hope that makes sense. Weightlifting for strength on cutting. The thing is that you focus on what you're doing in that season. You want to cut weight, cut. Okay, we can't expect to build a lot of strength when we're cutting. We have to be safe and smart while we're cutting, because we're glycogen depleted, we're energy depleted, maybe we're feeling a little bit foggy. So whatever you're doing, you have to understand that cutting is not your primary strength building phase. And if you're relying on your cutting phase to build a lot of strength, you have to just have it come to you have to stand in front of the mirror and come back to common sense a little bit. Right? I need to get the fat off. It's going to be hard to gain strength. So the best advice is to get the fat loss diet done and to be safe in the meantime. I feel bloated and sluggish when I eat before you should. Absolutely. That food is just going to sit in your stomach, and we can't expect the body to digest food and to use the blood for food, our stomach and our muscles at the same time. It can do it to a degree, but it's going to be highly inefficient. You're probably going to feel like El Crapo. Let's see. Is it okay to eat 2 eggs every? Oh, absolutely. You can eat all the eggs you want. They're one of nature. I hate to use superfoods, but if you're going to talk about superfoods and nutrient-rich foods, this is one of your best One of the best choices. Eat them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Eat 3 eggs, eat 4. Basically, they say muscle protein synthesis is included in maintenance. So you are in a surplus only if you gain fat. Well, they're trying to micromanage something that you really can't micromanage. The average lifter can't, work in this theoretical realm. Like, I know for certain I can't gain fat. This is ridiculous. It's just another excuse to try to gaintain, and stick, staple your head to a scale weight and hope you don't get fat. Well, it just stems out of bulking fear. It's ridiculous. It's silly. People like this are never going to gain an appreciable amount of muscle mass. The people that are like, I know somebody that stayed at 15% body fat and gained 20 pounds of muscle. If that's the case, then they were bulking, they gained 20 pounds on the scale. Anyway, if somebody wants to do it in a more challenging way, go right ahead. Good for them. For something that, sorry. Do you have any advice on beginning a personal training career? This is something I get a lot of questions about. I was the online coach of the year 2 years ago. Last year, I was in the top 5. Not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but Trainerize, the world's largest coaching app, voted me, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask anybody to vote for me in some stupid online poll. And I'm framing that because, to let you guys know, I get a lot of questions about becoming a personal trainer. And, are you going to do it in person? Or are you going to do it online? Is a hard path. One thing I run into from, if you're going to do training, you have to decide, is this going to be my full-time job? If it is, you need to have some things in place. Who are my targets? What is my specialty? What differentiates me? Everybody has a point of differentiation. What is my specialty? What am I about? Who do I want to work with? You have to get that stuff into place first. Like, I know who I am, right? I know my lanes. I know what my strong points are. I know, what I've accomplished. I know who I can coach. And you guys know it. I mean, that's why you're here. You know who I am, what I do, what I speak about. You're not going to get some nonsense. You're not going to get a fad sugar diet. You're not going to get like, I'm afraid of bulking, so I'm going to try to eat a theoretical maintenance and never gain a gram of fat because I can do the mathematical calculations smarter than you, right? This bullshit, this ridiculous influencer nonsense. You're not going to get the exercise of the day. You're going to get meat and potatoes stuff that is proven to work. I'm not going to punish you. I'm going to be reasonable. And I'm going to meet you where you're at. So we have to kind of figure out who we are. And then we have to be willing to work hard. I'm just going to say this, but there's so many people out there that are trainers, not necessarily personal trainers, because I don't work in that world, but, that don't want to or have no interest in coaching full time. And that's fair. Everybody can do whatever they want to do. I know a YouTube channel where the guy spends most of his time, free time playing video games or whatever. That's not a criticism. Do you, man? But he doesn't want he doesn't want to coach full time. He wants to do YouTube part time or whatever. Whatever his thing is, that's fair. I don't. I want to coach full time. I want to help people. I want to be with people. So, working hard is really a big part of this. It is not easy. You have to really dig deep and say, is this my calling? If it is, you need to figure out who you are, who you want to train, what your educational focus is, and you need to really get in that lane and find a way to stand out. Not by circus acts or cutesy little Instagram reels like I've been doing lately. That's just fun stuff that I'm doing after like nearly 20 years, mostly entertaining myself, but you have to find a way to stand out and and at least be superior some way where people look at you and they want to model your behavior. They want to model your physique. They want to model your worth ethic. You have to be a living, breathing homage to what you're trying to do. If you have any more questions, please message me. I would love to help. With starting in a big box environment, I mean, you need to get some experience, right? You need to probably understand form. That's a major deficiency in the coaching world. I see a lot of people that just don't understand form. So whatever exercises you're teaching, you need to just, even if you get a certification, that's great, NASM, whatever, but you need to get a personal certification. You need to get your ass to YouTube certification and study every lat pull down tutorial and become so familiar with exercise form that you really, really know how to help people. Matt says, no, I explained about, I mean, high frequency. Oh, yeah, high frequency is beating up your joints. Sorry for the confusion. Yeah, that's a common thing. I get that all the time. I really, really do. And you know, at least 60% of my clients do frequency training, so I'm not anti-frequency. Let's see, Isaac. How's it going, Isaac? Hope you're having a great day. Thank you. Because of my health reasons, it feels like I'm starting at square one. This is something we need to dive into a little bit more because you know, it's hard to dive into this over a you know, a live feed. If recovery is tanking, we need to look at all the variables. We need to look at what we can do. We need to potentially look at reducing training for a while. We need to see, you know, things always come back, right? If you've had them, they always come back. We just need to really be smart about how fast we are attacking. So just message me. We'll get it figured out. I usually train 3 days, but could also do 4 days. My girlfriend is getting into the habit of going to the gym, so I go with her to ensure she goes. A continuation of question. Oops. Let's see. So I will just maintain. Could you propose any split that would be suitable for 3 or 4 days a week? Most of the splits I put out are flexible schedules. You can do them 3 or 4, 2, 5 days a week. Upper posterior, you have 4 workouts. Torso, limbs, you have 4 workouts, and you cycle between these workouts. So they aren't stapled to a day of the week. So on the upper posterior or the torso limbs, and if you don't have these access to these videos, they're here on the channel. But you basically rotate between these 4 workouts, training 3 or 4 days a week, depending on your schedule. So there is flexibility. Good morning, Rico. Glad to have you here. How many minutes of low intensity cardio per week is fine? You're not going to affect muscle building. You're not going to lose muscle on a cut. This is so set that aside. There's nothing to worry about. Even if you would lose a couple of grams on a cut, muscle memory is a real thing, and you would get it back immediately. But you're not. You're going to feel glycogen depleted. You're going to feel energy depleted. The body doesn't work like that. And like, even if you would do something utterly ridiculous and do 5 hours of cardio a day, and let's say you lose 1 pound of muscle on a cut because of your overzealous actions, it always comes back. It's not gone forever. Muscle memory is a real thing. So this is a non-question. I mean that respectfully. Nothing's going to happen. If I ever talk to someone in the gym about lifting, I always refer to you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I'm not some fancy influencer. I've just always been a guy in a basement, now a guy in a hotel room in the middle of nowhere. But I'm here. I'm here on your guys' side. I'm one of you guys. You know, I've spent my life doing this. I care about you guys. I don't have any interest in being an influencer. I'm always going to shoot you guys straight, and you guys can do what you want with the information. So I appreciate. So with that said, before I get into the next question, I want you to go to YouTube today and search Strength Classroom. Okay. Strength Classroom did an interview with Strength Classroom, and it went up yesterday on YouTube. Strength Classroom, Steve Shaw, Strength Classroom, Massive Iron. I was listening to it and I was so pleased with how this interview came out, because on here I'm trying to go through all the questions, and um, it can be very rapid fire. And sometimes I wish I had all the time in the world to dive into some of these to a greater degree. But that interview is one of probably my favorite interview I've ever done. It's just packed full of really, really good information. So please go over there, watch it, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment. Strength Classroom, YouTube. It is really, I'm proud of it. So I hope it helps you guys. Thank you for your lengthy response. I have followed you for a long time. You're welcome. And thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. When lifting heavy, my time between sets increases more and more. That's normal. Nothing you can do to solve it. It's a normal, natural thing with training. The only thing you can reduce is like, hey, I'm dumbbell rows. Do I want to do 3 sets? Do I want to do 2 sets? That's the only thing you can do. That's the nature of lifting. The stronger you get, the more impactful it gets, the longer your warm-ups are going to get. And from there, you need to assess. We only have so many hours in the gym each week. We have to decide, how we are going to spend that time. If you're not certain, come to me. I'll help you. I'll show you. Maybe we can reduce a set of deadlifts. Maybe we can reduce a set of dumbbell rows. Maybe we can reduce a Romanian deadlifts down to 2 sets from 3. This is normal. Your goal in the gym is to train hard. Okay. That's your primary mission. Without that, you're not accomplishing anything. So we want to train hard, and the harder we train, the longer we train, the stronger we get, the longer it's going to generally want to take. So we might have to make some concessions. Let's see. Sorry about that. How do you maintain progressive overload on accessory lifts? The same way you do every other lift. Every lift is unique. You have a progression approach. You try to beat the logbook. Smaller lifts aren't generally going to, provide constant progression. Like you're not dumbbell curl early on. You're probably going to progress pretty routinely to the point where you feel happy with that progress. And then maybe you get to like 40s and you're like, I'm not adding any reps. That's the nature of lifting. At some point, it becomes a grind, and that's normal and natural. During that grind intermediate stage, we have to make sure we're not beating the living crap out of our body. So focus on hard training when you get to that intermediate stage, and let things happen when they happen. It's a long process. Right now, let's say you get to the intermediate stage after 2 to 3 years and things start to slow down. You get into that grind zone. If you just stay healthy, stay in the game, you're going to wake up 5 years from now, stronger, bigger. Maybe your curls are only 50 pounds after 10 years. I have lifts that I've been using my entire life that are not extremely strong because that's the nature of the lift. So always focus on hard training. That'll never let you down. Trying to beat the logbook safely when you can. Nolan, weekly lifting story. I was thinking maybe one about a long training block, training for a big goal. When I was my strongest, I ended up at 346 pounds. I started out at 308. So I didn't set the goal to eat myself to death. There was a point before I got divorced that we were remodeling my the major bathroom in the house. So my kids, my wife at the time, they were staying with my mother, and it was just me at home training, working. I was working for Muscle and Strength. And it was just me at home all by myself for like the first time in like 15 years. So I would eat and eat and train and eat and train and eat and train and eat and eat and train and eat and train. And I went from like 308 to 346 or whatever it was in like 4 months. Completely, completely eating like a pig. And at the time, I switched to basically heavy bench day, heavy squat and deadlift day, heavy bench day, heavy squat and deadlift day. No accessory work, really. Maybe one back down exercise. I was given it daily intuitive training on bench and squats and deadlifts, and combined with that food intake, my total ended up probably at least 1900. I went to compete, but I nearly died at that time. It sounds dramatic, but I came down with fatty liver disease so bad that I was getting cramps from head to toe. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack, because when you're getting cramps from head to toe, it's a sign your muscles aren't getting minerals, and the heart is a muscle, right? If something was major league misfiring, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So I ate like a pig over a 4-month period of time. My strength skyrocketed. I trained differently. I got super strong, but man, I paid a major price. Yep, thank you, Kevin. Strength Classroom, that is it. I'm really proud of that interview, a lot of good information, so please check it out. I am a 170-pound male. Is it fine if I only able to? No, you need to do better, and I mean that politely. But I mean, there's nothing magical about 150 grams of protein. But if you're only getting in 120, something is deficient in your eating. And I mean that politely. You have to do some assessment. You should be able to get to 150 without effort, some way, somehow, without breaking the bank. Like you can go to get a rotisserie chicken for $5, and that probably has 150 grams of protein in that alone. There's a way. But if it's unbalanced like that, usually either there's too much processed food or junk food or fast food, or you're under eating calories. You ever program my quad focus leg day? Yeah. I have a split that I created way back when I think I just talked about it recently when I was at Muscle and Strength. It was a 5-day a week. And what I would do is I would train squats and quads on one day. And then on the other day, I would do deadlifts and hamstrings and traps. So I kind of split it up a little bit. But yeah, I have a split like that. Absolutely. If you guys need it or have any questions, let me know. Do you bring an actual logbook with you? These days, I track on an app. Track on the app I'm developing. So no, I don't do an actual logbook. All right, guys, that's it. We're about an hour and 4 minutes in. I'll give you guys a chance to any last minute questions. If not, they're about to kick me out of the hotel room. I appreciate each and every one of you joining me today on these off hours. I will return next Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Please follow me on Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. And if I can figure out how to end this thing, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.